Adam,
Welcome back, everyone. Episode 26 of Kids Deserve It. It feels like we haven't done an episode in forever. Todd was traveling. I was traveling. There was Mother's Day in there. But we hope everyone's been enjoying our weekly chats with educators and game changers from around the country. Also, don't forget, you can check us out on iTunes. All of our shows are uploaded on iTunes. This week, we've got another great guest. But first, we want to introduce ourselves. I'm Adam Welcome, elementary school principal from Danville, California.
I'm Todd Nesloni, elementary school principal in Navasota, Texas. And our guest today is Jimmy.
Jimmy Casas, high school principal in Bettendorf, Iowa.
Awesome. We want to remind our viewers to participate in the chat along the side, as well as sharing out your learning on social media using the hashtag KidsDeserveIt.
So, Jimmy, for those who don't know about you, tell us about yourself.
Let's see. Well, I am a high school principal, like I said, in Iowa right now. This is my 14th year at Bettendorf High School. This is a community of about 30,000 people. I have almost around 1,550 students in my high school. We are a school district of one high school, one middle school, 6 elementary schools. What's really unique about our town, we're the only community in the entire state of Iowa that has 2 school districts in the same town, which is kind of interesting. We're about a mile apart from each other. So. Other than that, this is my 22nd year in ed leadership. Before here, I was in Iowa City High, which is where the University of Iowa is located. And before that, I started my career as both a teacher and administrator in Milwaukee Public Schools. So it's good to be home. I'm an Iowan by native.
Nice.
So.
My wife actually went to University of Iowa for grad school, so she's doing a little.
Go
my
Hawks.
wife's doing the whipping
That's
right now. She's doing the Iowa right now, actually. Yeah.
You should be.
That's
right. Goodness.
Well, Jimmy, what do you think is probably the most rewarding part of being a high school principal?
The most rewarding part of being a high school principal. Well, I think there are a lot of rewarding parts. In fact, I think it's the best job there is, right? Even more than an elementary principal or a middle school principal. So, honestly, I think what I love about it the most is I still, and I can honestly say this, after 22 years, I'm still as excited to come to work as I was on the first day. Mm-hmm. There's something really special about being able to work with kids each and every day. I think if you see yourself as a servant leader, what a great opportunity to serve a community, to serve teachers, to serve parents, and to serve students every day. So it's certainly challenging, and I think that's what I like the most about the job is that it's so different every day, right. And you never know what you're quite going to run into. But if you like problem solving, if you like those types of things where you get an opportunity to walk in every day and not quite sure every day what's going to happen, then this is a perfect job. I do see myself, Todd, I think I've mentioned this to you before, I do see myself as a community builder. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what leaders do. I think they find communities that currently don't exist, and they find a way to make a vision and build a vision and then inspire other people to kind of reach and achieve that vision.
Right.
And so that's what I love about the job more than anything, to be honest with you. But of course, it always comes down at the end of the day is it's about kids. And if you love kids, I always say high school people are kind of get the, how would I say that? They get the perception that they like kids and love their content, right? And elementary people, they love kids and like content.
Right.
And there's a huge difference between liking and loving kids, and we know that. And so the best of both worlds is to love your content and to love kids. So
that's right.
Nice. Jimmy, what's the biggest thing you've learned over the last year, do you think?
I think, I don't even know if it's over the last year, but I would say this throughout the course of my career, Adam. I think when you go into this job, or at least for me and personally, I felt like I had all this energy. I felt like I was extremely motivated, extremely passionate. And honestly, I felt like I could do it all by myself, right? I mean, you just get so, I have this idea and this vision of what leadership is going to be all about. And then as life happens, you begin to mature in the role, right? You grow and develop into the role, and you realize, guess what? You can be a whole lot more effective and a whole lot more efficient if you build leaders around you. Right. And at the end of the day, you're just so much more effective and efficient. And at the end, the truth is you end up making a greater impact than you ever thought you could. So I think more than anything, I continue to learn that. And part of it, honestly, we were just talking about this today, how political the role of the school leader is today. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to decide, I don't go into things looking at things politically. I look at going to things and what's the best interest of our kids or in best interest of our school or community.
Right.
And I don't ignore the politics of it, but I certainly don't make decisions based on that.
Right.
But the truth of it is it's a hard job and you put yourself out there. You're more vulnerable and you're certainly more of a target when you stand up for what you think is the right thing for kids, because eventually other people become, dissatisfied with your work, perhaps as an educator or as a leader, because it doesn't align with their belief systems.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're the one that has to be able to live with yourself each and every day. And as long as you know that you believe that you're doing the right thing with one of the best interests, certainly getting feedback and talking to your team and your teachers, your staff, or kids, or whatever happens to be the case. But at the end of the day, somebody's got to make that decision. And that, I think, is probably the hardest thing with leaders. But so I would say probably the thing I've learned most is that you got to just keep doing the right thing, regardless of the arrows that will come your way for doing that.
Right. I love what you said about like distributive leadership, like don't try to do it all. One of my favorite books is Leadership Lessons of the Navy SEALs. And they really talk about, it's a non-education book, but don't do it all. And if you're not there, someone else picks up the slack. So school can still run without you. And it's, sometimes you're driving the bus, sometimes you're in the back, but usually you're maybe in the middle and kind of just working it around. Because any program you start, or it's got to be sustainable. I feel, past me, hopefully. And if you're doing everything, principals do it all, right? But if you're doing all of it all the time, it's just not gonna sustain. So.
Right. And the idea is, we want to build capacity, right? Which is not an easy thing to do sometimes. Mm-hmm. And how you distribute that leadership, and a lot of people use the word empower. I always tell people I don't really like that word. I prefer to inspire people, because I still think when you empower people, it symbolizes that somehow it still has more power over somebody else. And so I'd rather inspire people, or try to do that. But hey, I just noticed all of us have blue shirts on.
I was thinking that earlier.
How cool is that, right? How cool is that?
Oh my goodness. Well, Jimmy, we're going to talk about what great educators do differently here in a second. But besides that, what's something new or innovative or something that you've tried recently that you've been really proud of?
Blab. How successful I was at that, right? Something new, something innovative I tried recently. That is a good question, Todd. I feel like I'm always trying new things, because I feel like I'm a risk taker by nature. I can tell you one thing I'm going to do, and I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but I'll say it. So I'm still doing, I still put together presentations in Google Slides, right? And people give me a hard time about that, to jump over to Keynote. So I started dabbling in it last week, and so I'm going to start using Keynote. So I think I don't know if it's innovative, but it's certainly something that anything that's outside your comfort zone, right? And something that's just easier to fall back on what you're always used to doing. And so it's that whole idea of modeling again. WordPress is something I jumped into. I used to be a Blogspot kind of guy, and it's intimidating when you make those switch over, those changeovers like that, and you're looking at all this coding and thinking, you get to the point where it's so simple and you can do it so quick. So it reminds you how teachers feel in the classroom, right? That it might be something that seems simple, but it's the whole idea of the time that it takes. But it's funny that I often think about that. And I was just talking to someone the other day, when we talk about change, people keep, always talk about the fear of change. And I don't think it's that they fear it. I think it's the amount of time that it takes, right? It's not that they don't want to change. If I had more time right now to jump into WordPress or jump into Keynote or whatever the change is, I don't mind doing it. Right. It's trying to balance all the different things that take so much time. And I think that's a good reminder for us as school leaders when we're taking on new initiatives, that it isn't the initiatives that worry teachers. It's the amount of time that you're trying to balance all the different things coming at you, and having to relearn or redo some things, or just take the time. Because if you're a teacher, like most of the teachers that I know, and especially the ones in my building, they take a lot of pride in the work that they do, right? And so they want it to be good work. And if you're going to do good work, just like anything we tell our kids, you got to invest time in that. So anyway, I don't know if that really answers your question, but
yeah.
I don't mind taking on things. So.
Jimmy, you recently started the What Great Educators Do Differently conference. Can you tell us a little more about it?
Well, sure. There's an example of risk taking there a little bit, right?
Exactly.
Well, it kind of originated from an idea that Jeff Zoll, myself, and Todd Whitaker had sitting around dinner just a little bit more than a year ago, about a year and a half ago now. We were out in San Diego, and we had our book had come out, and we started talking about, why don't we run a conference, along the same names? And Todd's obviously has written books on what great principals do differently, what great teachers do differently, and so forth. And we wanted a conference that could inspire both leaders and teachers and teacher leaders and all educators for that matter. But we want to be a different kind of conference. We don't want to be a large conference. It's funny. I just went to ASCD. I'm not trying to be a negative about ASCD because I've gone to it several times. But some of these, whether it's ISTE or some of these conferences, are so huge and so massive that you get there and you end up spending time with the exact same people that you went with, right? And so, the idea was to form a conference where you would actually go to it and surround yourself with other people that wanted to be inspired just as much as you do. We talk about all the time as how important it is to surround yourself with excellence, right? And so I've always believed that excellence recognizes excellence. As soon as you see it, it's like, yep, there's excellence, right? And you want to be a part of that. And so how do we bring educators in small environments to build these communities? And Simon Sinek talks about all the times about connecting the dots. Well, you can't connect them if you don't collect them, right? So we got to collect the dots. But I think when you do it in small groups like that, it really builds that community, that sense of community that we're talking about. Because at the end of the day, there's so few of us that are truly still connected. Even though you think in the world that we live in, there's a lot, there isn't as much as you think there is. And so how do we continue to bring educators on board and hopefully inspire them to be more than they ever thought they could be? So, Todd was, at the last conference, and I think he could vouch for how what an amazing feeling is when you leave those conferences that people are telling us, hey, it's a great conference. And I think it's because it's smaller intentionally, but also because it's a hybrid of different conferences and different feedback that we've gotten from different people, what they like about it. And of course, we just bring what we believe are some of the best, speakers in education today. And so I think that's the key to, and part of it, honestly, what Jeff and Todd and I are trying to do is trying to also cultivate more leaders and give people, not just leaders, educators, an opportunity to speak at these types of things. So hopefully as we continue to grow, we'll continue to bring different people and give them opportunities to have a stage to share their stories. So I think that's important to spread that out as much as possible. I mean, we're always constantly learning from one another. So how do we continue to do that to the best of our ability?
Nice.
Well, Jimmy, one of the questions we like to end on is, I thought of when I was looking at guests to bring, I knew I wanted you to be a guest on the show because you're somebody that you're part of the reason I view myself as an administrator, or that I even jumped in the administrative role, is because some of the advice you've given and some of the examples you've set as an administrator. So who are some people, who is someone that inspires or challenges you to be better?
Oh, geez. Well, there's lots of people, to be honest with you. It's really funny. It's true. I mean, I think back when I started my career as, wanting to go into leadership, Todd. I mean, it was early 90s, right? 91, 92. And in those days, it was people like Todd Whitaker, Rick DeFore, honestly, that were really inspiring me in the work that they were doing. And then as I spent more time in leadership roles, honestly, it was my mentors. It was people around me that were helping me get better. My first principal, my first superintendent, these people truly just inspired me to want to continue to be better than I at that time than I thought I was, and trying to improve and all the things I was trying to do. In other words, to make the greatest impact that we could. But today, honestly, it doesn't take a whole lot. I wrote a blog post called I Just Want to Be Inspired, because I still think sometimes I just want to go and listen to people who lift me up and inspire me to want to be better, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't even care if there's something practical. The practicality of it is just the energy and the enthusiasm and the inspiration that comes from that talk. So, how do you find a balance between all those things? But, certainly today, I still give George Couros a lot of credit for pushing me into blogging and writing, something that has opened up, a lot of opportunities for me. But the people I work with every day inspire me, right? My colleagues, my teachers, our kids, just people that you work with on an everyday basis. But certainly social media, there's so many people, I wouldn't even begin to name them all. But I mean, all of you guys, anybody who we're connected with, we read their blog posts, we see them on Twitter, we connect with them face to face on Vox or whatever. All those people continue to inspire me, because it's people who are doing the same work that we do each and every day. And honestly, only we get that work. We understand that work, more than anybody.
So Jimmy, every week we like our guests to leave a challenge for our viewers. What's your challenge for the week?
Well, Todd sent me a message. They said I had to come up with a challenge. So I think I got one. Let me see. I'll try this one. See if people will take this challenge on this week. I'm going to challenge our viewers this week. For those of you who don't know, there are 5 days in a school week. And if you'll take each day, I challenge our teachers or our school leaders to pull one kid aside and ask the student 3 questions. So let's call this the Personal Pride Progress Challenge. Okay, we'll call it the Personal Pride Progress Challenge. So the first question is about something personal. So the question should sound something like this. Tell me something about yourself that you don't think I already know about you, right? That's that personal piece of trying to get your new student, know your student on a personal basis. Then the second one is the pride question. You know, what do you love most about your school, right? You could accommodate to your classroom or whatever happens to be the case. But that brings out that pride in that student and tell you what they really believe and what they love about their school or love about their classroom. And then the last one is the progress piece. And so that's the part is if you were today, if I deputized you or named you the principal today, what's the first change that you would make in our school? Or what's the first thing you would address? In other words, where do you want to make progress in? Where do you want to grow? So I challenge our viewers this week to take the Personal Pride Progress Challenge, interview a different kid each day and ask them those 3 questions. And I think what you'll find at the end of the day, you're going to get to know something pretty cool about 5 more kids that you didn't know today, which is pretty awesome.
No doubt.
And here's the other thing you'll learn from it is something else always comes out of it that you least expected, right? And honestly, it'll probably be something that inspires you or motivates you to want to be better, which is kind of cool. I don't care if it's an elementary kid or middle school or high school student. Our kids will inspire us every day if we let them. So we just got to give them opportunities.
Well, Jimmy, thank you so much for coming on with us tonight and for figuring out Blab and giving us a couple of minutes of your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I was kind of embarrassed there a little bit. Hey, guy can't figure out Blab. It must have been my Wi-Fi. I don't know what was going on.
Yeah.
But, I just turned it off and I just went without it. So
there we go. Well, we want to thank everybody for watching as well, and we want to encourage you to check out our show next week with Jenny Majera. We are excited to share some of the things she has to share with you. We also want to let everybody know that if you go to our Twitter account or our website, kidsdeserveit.com, you can sign up for our email list where we will be announcing this week when our book will be out. So we've got just a couple more weeks until the Kids Deserve It book is released. And we'll be excited to share that and the cover with everyone as well. So make sure you go and sign up for that so you'll be the first person in the know. So thanks again, Jimmy.
Thanks again, Jimmy.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'm honored. Hey, Todd, you know what? And Adam, as much as kids deserve it, you know who else deserve it? Teachers deserve it too.
That's right.
So that's right.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. Hey, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity. Love you, Todd. Have a good one, buddy.
Yeah.
Adam, nice to meet you, buddy.
See you, man. Take care.
Have a good one.